My name is Nick B, and let's jump into the futures overview. So, let's start with the economic calendar. I use forexfactory.com. We don't have nothing going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's see how price action reacts between the levels that we're at. Thursday CPI at 8:30 a.m., and then we have Friday core PPI, which might add some swings to the market. So, last week, let's take a look what last week we had ISM manufacturing PMI, we had JOLTS job openings, we had non-farm employment change, unemployment claims, ISM services PMI, and NFP, and that was still not enough to get us out of the chop range that we're in. We did begin to break down into Friday, but we're still holding above some of our main supports. So that's why my assumption is that when that CPI number comes out, maybe we'll get a better idea of what to expect in terms of direction. Do we start to break down? And also, I want to go over why we're not so quick to short it just yet, just because of the technicals. So let's pull up ES. Let's start with this one. Now, the levels I have plotted both on ES and NQ are the same ones that we plotted last week on Sunday. So let's take a look what we have up here and kind of refresh here. So we plotted our all-time highs at 48.08. We have a pivot point at 46.30 right here. If we want to go higher, we must get above it and then hold above it for us to keep that continuation going. And then the previous pivot level that we managed to make higher highs above, which gave us this bullish push, was at 43.27, which we are still ways above. Now it starts to get interesting on the intraday level because last week what we determined was we were stuck between 45.50 and 46.30. If we wanted to get a move, it was either below 45.50 and then you could have shorted, ES for 50 points. It wasn't worth my risk appetite, so I didn't jump into any shorts. Also, we didn't break anything significant for it to sound the short alarms. VIX wasn't really scaring us below 20. Dollar wasn't really scaring us. I mean, the only thing that kind of maybe spooked the market, I know there was the Fitch report that we had some swings to it, but I think it was the 10-year, the 10 years bidding to the upside TNX. I think that's kind of what spooked us down lower to where we are. But again, we're still above our support of 4,500. Now, I don't have 4,500 plotted because it's more or less a psychological support resistance level. And we can say it was a previous, resistance level over here back in, when was this? June and July until we finally broke above it. And now we kind of came back. It almost looks like we're just retesting it on a daily and maybe we could bounce off of it. I don't know. We have to see how this develops. We have to let price action play out. But again, my point is we're still above 4,500. If we are to break lower, we could, if and when we break below 4,500. I think my first target is going to be 4,400, which was this previous higher low over here, lower high, lower high. And then we have a previous lower high over at 43.70, which is holding up this move. And even then, even if we do come down to here, again, I am not convinced of a short unless 43.25 breaks down because that was the pivot level that's essentially holding this entire move to the upside. And this is just from a pure technical standpoint. Again, I don't care for fundamentals. I'll take them into account. I want to know what the reaction of them will be, but I don't like predicting what the number, let's say we come in at 3% or 2.8%. Well, what possibility is going to play out? Fuck that. I don't have the nerves for that. To be frank, let's be being frank here. So text tell me all I need to know really. It's just the kind of the icky part is the patience part, the waiting part. Sometimes you might end up waiting 2 weeks for that proper setup to play out. Again, that's just my style of trading. I like to take it nice and slow, but I know that it's precise, and I know that when that move triggers, it's going to be a very nice ride to wave. And then let's talk about in terms of why we didn't. Well, if we had that kind of rejection near 4630 or 4600, even then, why didn't we short this? Again, this just goes against my trading style. So one of the rules I preach is the trend is your friend, and in this case, this is bullish. We're still above the main pivot levels. We're making lower highs. We're making higher highs. I'm not convinced to short against the trend. It's just I don't want to do it. Every single time I've done that in the past, I've gotten burned. Not interested. As well as when we identify, channels where there's chop, like for example between 4550 and 4630, or even 4500 and 4550, because we know for a fact if we want to see a move, first to the upside at least, we need to stay above 4500, but we really need to get above 4550 and attempt to knock on the door of 4630 again and go from there. Or if we want to see downside, again, the scenario is we break down, we start coming down to the previous lower highs of 4400 area, and then below 4400 you're coming down to 4370. I mean, a short from 4500 to 4300, you could have a 50 stop, you could have a 50-point stop loss, and then you're targeting 100 points to the downside. That could be a 2-to-1 ratio, but not interested again, because it goes against my rules basically, and the trend is your friend. So I'm not willing to short until really this main pivot level that's holding this move up to the upside. But I'm just telling you, the possibility is there for you scalpers out there that like to maybe catch those momentum swings. You could, but again, just be wary, be cautious. And then again, below 4400, you're what, coming down 30 points to 4370. And again, 4370, about you still have to make another 50 points down towards 4327, break below that pivot level, and then you can already talk about making that leg lower. And then when we retest, let's say we break down 4327 on a retest of 4325, 4327, you could consider shorting if we can't get above that level. Other than that, again, I am not interested in shorting here. So let's break it down to the 4 hour, where we could get a better, closer look at kind of the intraday supports and resistance. So just so we can kind of have it pointed out, so it's just not a level that keeps floating out in the air, we're going to put 4500 right here. I'm going to make it yellow so it stands out, make it a little wider. Boom. We have our 4500 level. Let me just edit it. Boom. Okay, so again, clear as day, you can see on the 4 hour, we've identified basically the channels that we're in. So currently we're between 4500 and 4550. Just went over that. If we get above 4550, we should have enough room to attempt a knock at 4630. And my interest in going long, where it's a confident long, is if we get a break above 4630 on the hourly, and we close above that level, I would like to go long, and I would like to target 4700. I'll show you why 4700 in a moment. But let's say we do chop around here between, we might also end up chopping maybe between 4500 and 4630 until CPI. We don't know yet. If into Monday, we go into Monday and we break down below 4500, okay, again, we can consider coming down to maybe 4400. But how sustainable is that if the trend is your friend and the trend is bullish? We have to kind of keep in mind what's worth risking our dollars and what isn't, because we work hard for our money, right? We don't want to just give it away, we don't want to just donate it, so we have to make each move make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars. So if we could potentially come down to 4400 again, 4370. That's going to be a lower high that we might come down to if we break down, but my interest is 4327. Below 4327, okay, you got it. The bears got it. We can consider shorting that leg lower, but as long as we stay above it, I'm looking for every dip. I'm looking for a buys opportunity. But again, this is for the safer side. I don't want to confuse anyone either. You could bite on longs at 4500. You could bite on the long at 4550, targeting 4630. Just understand it's not the safe route to go in my eyes. I'm just giving out the different scenarios because I have to. I don't want to make it too narrow. I want to show you guys that there's different ways to trade it. There's no such thing as a right or wrong way to trade either. It's just what trading style or method do you prefer and what suits you better. So I like calm. I like a little risk on my table, but I like precise, concise moves that I know that once we break, I can ride that wave out safely. And again, for me, that would be a break above 4630 on the hourly, and then we're going to target 4700. So that's the breakdown on ES. I don't even have to really break it down to the 1 hour. I mean, we can, but not much really going on here. This may look bullish, but Again, can't call it. Again, also, I don't have a bullish or a bearish bias into this week because I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I can only go based off of what levels we are bouncing off of, breaking out of, or breaking down. Also, let me point out why I would like to target 4,700 if and when we get above 4,630, because we need to start making higher highs. And in a bull market, in a bull trend, when we're breaking out, making higher highs and trying to retake previous higher lows, lower lows, um, this is the first level that stands out to me. This was a previous all-time high over here at 4710, 4700 area before we pulled back down to, interesting, right? 4630. And then we came back up over here. We couldn't quite get above this level. We had that big pullback down to, what is it, about 4,500. And then look at that. We held above 4,500. We started making lower highs. Let's see, where did we wick? 4,520, basically, we wicked over here. And again, once we were able to get above 4,700, we were able to be on track towards 4,800. So I think that would be a pretty solid area, pretty solid level to target to the upside once we break out. And that's with ES. So let's move on to NQ. And again, same thing. I left the levels up that I plotted basically last week on NQ because nothing's really changed. We've just been in a chop range. So let's have a refresher. We have our all-time highs at 16,767 and a half. We have our pivot level over here, which is 16,000, where we made this area particularly stood out to me. That's why I plotted it over here. And funny enough, we came up to it again. We couldn't get above it. And we started to chop around between 15,500. I've been calling that level out, 15,500 and really 16,000. So the saying was last week, either we break below 15.5 and we head on down to 15,265, which is this next level. I don't have 15.5 plotted out, but once we start breaking it down on the smaller time frame, maybe the 4 hour, the 1 hour, it'll make more sense to plot it out. But for now, I just want to point out the main levels. So 15,260, 265, that's our main support right now, and we're holding above it. So as long as we're above it, that bullish bias, I guess, remains. I'm looking to buy most of the dips, but if we do break below 15,265, it's going to be a similar song and dance like with ES. We're probably going to start testing these previous lower highs at 1550, 14,850, and then already below 14,850, we can start considering let me see. I would even offer it below 14,850. I'd start considering this level right here at 13,750. Really, 13,744, but it's potato potato. 13,750. That would be that level, because once we start breaking, once we're below already 15,265, I mean the channel you can see clear as day. It really begins right here, 14,3. I could see 14,3 being the first stop because we have a little bit of resistance here. We have a little bit of support here. However, the channel really is from 13,750 to 15,265. So I think if we start breaking down, this would be our last line of support at 14,850, and then we can start looking at possibly 13,750, which is a hell of a stretch, right? I mean, because this is just the channel. I'm just pointing out the channel because the intraday levels, that would be probably 14,850 and 14,300, 14,250. But you know, what are the odds we start bouncing off of these levels? Just what are the odds? Because at that point, it technically is considered a breakdown. Because again, just like 40, what was that level? You know what? Let me pull up ES again. Whoops. Uh, Let me pull ES up again. So just like right here, 4325 is holding up this entire move to the upside, as well as, well, 4500 psychological support resistance level. NQ is being held up by basically 13,750, and currently, because this was a previous pivot level, at 15,265. So that's kind of my reasoning and the levels I'm watching for and kind of what to expect. So would I short below 15,265? No, no. I would like to see the lower highs get blown out before that happens. Again, we're still quite above. We're still about 250 points above that support level. So as long as we're above it, we're fine. But again, I wouldn't be too quick to short below it either because it's not a given. 1515 could be the first target, and then 14850 could be the second target, and that does sound like some nice points to the downside. It does, as long as you keep that risk tight, but just not my cup of tea. I can't justify shorting that knowing that, you know, first place, the entire move really is held up by 13,750, which is the equivalent for me to 43.27. Because, right, once we started to make higher highs above these levels, we kind of just started taking off. So really, that's what I'm looking for on NQ. Let's see what it looks like on the 4 hour. Upside is going to be, it's going to be a hell of a battle to the upside too. Oops, 4 hour. Okay, so this is 15,265, and this would be our 15,500 level right here. So I'm going to go ahead and point that out too, just so we have an idea of kind of a level by level barrier once we start taking over those levels, where we might end up. 15.5. Also, same thing. It's not. It is a support level and a resistance level, but it's not. It's one of those psychological round numbers. So here we have it. Okay. So this is clear. You know, we can see 15,265 and 15.5. Now it's a matter of if and when we get above 15.5, are we going to knock at 16,000 again? Well, first, I think we're going to have to work our way up at 15.6. 15.6 would give us that higher high above this level, and then we can start targeting 15.9 on the intraday. But really, again, I'm looking for a clean, precise entry where I could fully ride out the swing, and that would end up above 16,000. Above 16,000 on the hourly, I would probably look to target. Let's take a look at this 2-year daily. The first all-time high, and that ends up being around 16,450. Risk a few points per 50, 100 points. Risk to make about 450 points. Worth it in my books. And especially because it's going to be clear direction. We know that once that break comes in and it sustains itself above that support, we know we'll get that continuation. It's just not so clear with 15 to 65. I know this might be a little confusing also. That's why I kind of keep repeating myself and keep going over it, because I'm just trying to point out that there's there's things in the way, at least in my books, when I'm breaking this down. Like, sure, I would like to short down from 15,250 down to 1550 or 14,850. That's great. That's a great target for points, and you could keep the risk tight. But how sustainable is it? Where's the certainty in it? And when I feel as though that doesn't exist in there, I don't attempt to trade. I don't go for that move, because every time I don't listen to those rules, I break them. It ends up screwing me. So I don't want to go through that in this case. So again, even if we come down to 14,850, that would probably be my last straw of support before, okay, man, the reality could be that we're starting to head down to 14.3, and then below 14.3, we can start making our way down to 13,750. Again, which I still think is a stretch. I mean, I genuinely think we need to see a black swan event for us to get below 43.27 and 13,750. I mean, again, those are the main levels that are holding up this move to the upside. So let's see what we get. I don't want to push too much. I don't want to try to time anything in particular between these levels, because there is no certainty. And when there is no certainty, it just doesn't line up. And when I say certainty, I'm not saying like, oh, I know 100% we're going to go up there. No, but I need some green check marks and some things that, for example, like the trend is your friend, or, did we break out, or are we breaking down? Are we in between a channel? If we're in between a channel, you shouldn't be doing anything. In this case, we're between 15,265 and really 16,000. That's really what we're in between, because if we break below this pivot level, we get an idea that we might head lower. Again, I'm very skeptical of 14,850 as a support, or us breaking below it. Or we get to 16,000 and we break out, and then we can continue, targeting previous all-time highs of 16,450. Anything in between, it's anybody's guess. It's anybody's guess. And you could break this down to the hourly. Let's zoom in a little bit. How would you know for a certainty that we would bounce off of 15.5 right here? Or how would you know we'd bounce here? How would you know we'd bounce here? And every time we bounce, the thought process also thinks, oh, okay, we're going for 16K because that's our breakout level. That's the level that we're going to keep on knocking at. But in this case, we also slowed down. I do want to point out 15.9. I think that once we get above the 15.9 intraday resistance level, that should give us a little bit of confidence to maybe knock on 16K. And if we can finally get above 16K, close above that on the hourly, I think we shouldn't have an issue continuing higher. Other than that, I mean, not worth trying to time the moves here. Just not worth it. I mean, each time I've back tested through specific, chop channels. Yeah, last week I've nibbled on a few trades. I wanted to see, what are the scenarios here, and I got burned. It was a few dollars, but still, the point is, why are you breaking your rules, right? We wanna be precise, we wanna be on point, and we want clear moves, and you're just not going to get them here, is my conclusion at least. So until we see a breakout of 16K and 4630 on ES, or a breakdown of 40 what was it 4500 really on ES, or really a breakdown, really a 4327 is when I'd want to short, or on NQ if we really break down 15265 again. We could bite on those shorts. We can take a chance. I'm going to be probably, scrunching my face a little bit because the trend is still bullish, but we'll see what we get, right? Because we don't have a certainty here, and pretty much most of the anticipation is on CPI. I didn't really even see too bad of news last week that would give us the reaction to the downside, other than the Fitch downgrade. And yeah, I mean that's all she wrote. Again, the VIX is below 20. The dollar was kind of cooling off. The only thing that can come to mind that really spooked us off to the downside is that the 10-year yields were getting bought up, and that kind of made equities pull back a little. I just want to take a look at the dollar really quick. Yeah, I mean we stopped by 102.79. Let me blow this up on the 2-year daily. Yeah, it's from this fall. We're basically back up at these levels. I mean, I would imagine that maybe if the dollar breaks above 103, that's a stretch. That's a stretch, man. That would be your next resistance, maybe above 103.63, and we would head towards 104.68. Maybe we see the selling continue, maybe, but again, let's see. This is a really tough area that we're in. We have to really let price action develop here. And the other thing is, this is just August seasonality. August tends to be a bit of a chop shit month sometimes, so we might have to be a little bit patient here and just wait it out. I'm really curious to see what CPI has in store for us in the direction we take on. I'm not opposed to shorting at all, but it's not exactly something I want to do on the trend up. Let me just check. Yeah, we're NQ at 15.4, and ES is at 4506, still holding above. ES is at 4506. We're still holding above that 4500 support. Let's see what we get. It's either we start breaking down and systematically we visit the intraday supports of 4400 and 4370 until 4327 pivot level. NQ would be 15265. We break below that. We head down to probably 1550, and then below 1550, 14850. That's the end of the line before we really start making our way closer towards 13750, and then we'll go from there. Again, this is crazy. 13750, that's fucking crazy. Same thing like 4327. That's just crazy for me right now. Where's the bad news? I don't see it happening yet. But until then, we'll see what we get. I hope everyone has a happy and a great successful trading week, and see you guys into the week. Cheers.